Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here again. So I'm extremely confident that level 5 or essentially complete autonomy will happen, and I think it will happen very quickly. I think at Tesla, I feel like we're very close to level 5 autonomy. I think I remain confident that we will have the functionality for the basic functionality for level 5 autonomy complete this year. The thing to appreciate for level 5 autonomy is really what level of safety is acceptable for the public streets relative to human safety, and then so is it enough to be twice as safe as humans? Like I do not think that the regulators will accept equivalent safety to humans. So the question is, will it be twice as safe as a requirement, 3 times as safe, 5 times as safe, 10 times as safe? So you can think of really level 5 autonomy as kind of like a march of nines. Like, do you have 99.99% safety, 99.99999%? How many nines do you want? And what is the acceptable level? And then what amount of data is required to convince regulators that it is sufficiently safe? Those are the actual in-depth questions, I think, to be asking about level 5 autonomy. That it will happen is a certainty. Yes, I think there are no fundamental challenges remaining for level 5 autonomy. There are many small problems, and then there's the challenge of solving all those small problems and then putting the whole system together, and just keep addressing the long tail of problems. So you'll find that you're able to handle the vast majority of situations, but then there'll be something very odd, and then you have to have the system figure out and train to deal with these very odd situations. And this is why you need a kind of a real world situation. Nothing is more complex and weird than the real world. Any simulation we create is necessarily a subset of the complexity of the real world. So, I mean, we're really deeply enmeshed in dealing with the tiny details of level 5 autonomy, but I'm absolutely confident that this can be accomplished with the hardware that is in the Teslas today, and simply by making software improvements, we can achieve level 5 autonomy. I'm not sure I totally agree with dividing it into those categories: perception, cognition, and action. But if you do use those categories, I'd say that probably perception, we've made, if you say like recognition of objects, we've made incredible progress in recognition of objects. In fact, I think it would probably be fair to say that an advanced image recognition system today is better than almost any human, even in an expert field. So it's really a question of like how much compute power, how much how many computers were required to train it, how many compute hours, what was the efficiency of the image training system. But in terms of image recognition or sound recognition, and really any signal, you can say like generally speaking, any byte stream, can a modern AI system bend things accurately for a given byte stream extremely well. Cognition, this is probably the weakest area. If you say like, do you understand concepts and are you able to reason effectively, and can you be creative in a way that makes sense? Because you have certainly advanced AIs that are very creative, but they do not curate their creative actions very well. And so we look at it and it's like, it's not quite right. It will become right though. And then action, I think maybe if you think of like things like games, as maybe something part of the action part of things. Obviously at this point, any game with rules, AI will be superhuman at any game with an understandable set of rules. Like, it's essentially any game below a certain degree of freedom level. So really, I'd say at this point, any game. There's really, it would be hard pressed to think of a game where, if there was enough attention paid to it, that we would not make it superhuman AI that could play it. And that's not even taking into account the faster reaction time of AI. So in developing AI chips for autopilot, what we found was that there was no system on the market that was capable of doing inference within a reasonable cost or power budget. So if we had gone with conventional GPUs and CPUs and that kind of thing, we would have needed several hundred watts, and we would have needed to fill up the trunk with computers and GPUs and a big cooling system, which is important for range for an electric car. So we developed our own AI chip, the Tesla full self-driving computer, with dual system on chips with 8-bit and accelerators for doing the dot products. I think a lot of people, probably a lot of people in this audience are aware of it, but AI consists of doing a great many dot products. This is like, if you know what a dot product is, it's just a hell of a lot of dot products, which effectively means that our brain must be doing a lot of dot products. So we still actually haven't fully explored the power of the Tesla full self-driving computer. In fact, we only turned on the second system on chip partially a few months ago. So making full use of the Tesla full self-driving computer will probably take us at least another year or so. Then we also have the Tesla Dojo system, which is a training system, and that's intended to be able to process vast amounts of video data to improve the training for the AI system. So the Dojo system, and that's like a FP16 training system, that is primarily constrained by heat and by communication between the chips. And so we're developing new buses and new sort of heat rejection or cooling systems that enable a very high teraop, a very high op, more than tera, a very high operation computer that way will be able to process video data effectively. How do we see the evolution of AI algorithms? I'm not sure the best way to understand this, except that what the neural net seems to mostly do is take a massive amount of information from reality, primarily passive optical, and create a vector space, essentially compress a massive amount of photons into a vector space. And I was just thinking, actually, on the drive this morning, that have you tried accessing the vector space in your mind? Like, we normally take reality just for granted in kind of like an analog way, but you can actually, I think, access the vector space in your mind and understand what your mind is doing to take in all the world data. And what it is actually doing is trying to remember the least amount of information possible. So it's taking a massive amount of information, filtering it down, and saying what is relevant, and then how do you create a vector space world that is a very, very tiny percentage of that original data. And then based on that vector space representation, you make decisions. And so it's like really a compression, decompression that's just going on a massive scale, which is kind of like how physics is. Like, think of physics algorithms as essentially compression algorithms for reality. So that's what physics does. Those physics formulas are compression algorithms for reality, which is, like, this may sound very obvious, but if you simply, what it means is, like, and we are the proof points of this, if you simply ran a true physics simulation of the universe, this would obviously take a lot of compute, but a true physics simulation of the universe. If you give it enough time, eventually you will have sentience.